So, ladies and gentlemen, I am the Last Raider, and today we're going on with a shorter than average video where I give you a little bit of a story here about someone an SJW who gets themselves ratioed all to hell, and I end up correcting before this is over with. Giving them a bit of common sense because that's what I do. I provide some knowledge and wisdom to some people, but it's just a little bit funny. Jess on here, and the gist of this conversation is people are talking about what is about how people are referring to different races or different species of humanoids inside of different fantasies and different sci-fi genres as black for some reason. Just to continue on. But let's start this little conversation going. Jess, just saw some woke kid casually refer to black people as dark skins, and I officially don't know what the F is going on anymore. For those who are young, let me explain something. Dark skins is the same as saying like darky or the N-word. Okay? Back in the 90s, it was a no-no thing you did not say. So that tells you exactly how far your generation has gone in terms of race. You are actually going backwards. We actually put y'all in a position where y'all could, possibly get away from race. You had the option, but a bunch of you decided to just jump off the cliff into racism. Anyway, continuing on. Turbo Garbo. Just saw someone argue that Knuckles from Sonic is black because he has dreads. His most famous theme is rap, Pumpkin Hill. The color of his shoes are red, green, yellow. He's hot-headed and aggressive. Wow, this sounds racist as fuck right here. Brah, he's just an echidna. That's true. He is just a echidna that walks on two legs and punches things. But, you look at this. This is like, black people are the only ones supposed to have dreads. That's technically, that's the cultural appropriation nonsense where they say a white person can't have dreads. And I'm looking at this like, traditionally I think dreads were kind of a Scandinavian thing. I don't know if it was really just a black thing all the time. I figure multiple, it's not like not everyone has tried the same damn thing at some point. Anyway, I don't even know who this guy is. I'm not even going to attempt to speak that person's name. People say the same about Piccolo and the Namekians, saying they're black. Brah, they're aliens. They fly, shoot beams out of their fingers. Yeah, this is true. It's a different species. Okay? You have to stop looking, and this is what I tell people a lot of times. You want to combat this woke nonsense. You got to start looking at it from the point of species, not races. Okay? It's kind of Star Trek logic, or Star Wars logic, more sci-fi, but in fantasy world, that does kind of make sense. But continuing on to this sheer nuclear take we get. Ebony Easter Bunny here. Metaphors are a thing. Like how orcs are clearly supposed to be black people, even though they're a fantasy race from a fictional world. One, that's not what the conversation was about, but this is what SJWs do, man. They come out there and they self-insert their racism to try and look like they're not racist. So they're like, see, I'm pointing out racism, see how good I am. And everyone else is just looking like, God, no, man, that's not it. No, that's not how this works. That is so not how this works. Anyway, dude gets quoted. He only gets like three likes, 3 retweets, and about 125 quote tweets. Which is one hell of a ratio, I gotta admit. Rune Colos, I think. That's going in the cringe folder. Yeah, probably should. Gibbles, I beg your pardon. I actually asked for the sauce in this anime because it looks actually pretty good. Sobering. No, they're not. Only a racist would think they are. This is true. I never heard this line of thinking until race-addled Americans started claiming it was. Actually, no. These are Baizu in the United States that are doing it. It's a very tiny minority of stupid Baizu who come up with this idea. And finally, you're telling on yourself with this. But ultimately, after a couple takes, I end up finding out about this from Jess here. Jess responds, like how orcs are clearly supposed to be black people. Bro. Yeah, come on, man. This does not make you look any less of a racist. It makes you look more of a racist. But Ebony Easter Bunny doubles down. bold strategy, but I mean, it doesn't work out very well for them. Are you seriously saying orcs were not coded to be a racist metaphor for black people? Really? Did we not finish this last year? Yeah, we did. You people just didn't get the memo, okay? And this is how SJWs are. Once one of them comes up with speech script, they are very much like NPCs. Once one of them comes up with a speech script, it's law at that point. You cannot really get them to understand any different until you red pill them. And they refuse to be red pilled at this point. So now, this is an SJW talking point, which is racist as fuck, and it needs to be called out. I mean, by all means, normally I would say don't harass this person, but by all means, and I'm not saying harass them, but by all means, do feel free to correct them and call them on their racist bullshit. What is it Anita Sarkeesian said? Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and we have to point it out. We are just pointing out your racism, Ebony Easter Bunny. So, I mean, feel free to find this person and call them a racist. It is only going to do them good. I ultimately can't handle this, and I end up responding to it. Dude, orcs are a completely different species of humanoid that have their own differing races, nationalities, just like elves, halflings, dwarves, demi-humans, humans, and dragonkin. To say they are one human race or another is like comparing a fish to a bird. And this is true. Okay? You have different tones for orcs. I've seen orcs in fantasy have light tones, different tones of green, different tones of black. I've seen orcs in, World of Warcraft actually has green orcs and actually has orcs that are kind of tan-skinned. I mean, that look like white people with fangs, okay? Just putting that out there, all right? I don't know what makes SJWs think that an orc is a black person, unless it's just the fact that orcs are heavily muscular, and that masculinity just scares the shit out of SJWs, because they are scared shitless of black people too. Maybe that's a correlation, I don't know. Nothing about an orc, even facial feature-wise, nothing about an orc screams it's supposed to be a black person. Most of them look and sound a bit like a dumb Scottish person. Okay? The massive fangs coming up out of the mouth, the mass squareness of the jawline, and even at that point, most of them aren't even dark-eyed. They're usually considered a villain. Most fantasies make them a playable race. There is respect given to them. They're kind of like a secondary version of barbarian in some instances. When you consider Skyrim, for instance, the Elder Scrolls series, the orcs are pretty much like a secondary, if you don't want to play as the Viking Nord, you can play as an orc, which an orc has berserker rage and all this stuff. They're kind of more barbarian-like than the Nords are barbarians. But, like I said, that's kind of like trying to say that Spock's species of, the Vulcans in Star Trek, there was actually an attempt at this back in, I believe, the 80s. I remember my dad telling me about this and my mom telling me about it, where they tried to say because Spock would do the Vulcan hand sign was supposed to be like Indians raising their hands saying, "How white man?" And I think Leonard Nimoy actually came out and got on to SJWs for this, because that was not the intention. The Vulcans were supposed to be were supposed to be so technologically advanced that they viewed emotion as a weakness. And a bunch of SJWs back in the 80s tried to say that the Vulcans, they're a caricature of Native Americans, because Native Americans aren't supposed to show emotion. No, fuck, dude. Native Americans do show emotion. They just show it differently. A lot of Native Americans, when they were dealing with white people a lot of times, the best option in a negotiation, when you're dealing with people, and you learn this from tribes, every country practices this, is to never show emotion, because if you get emotional in a debate or negotiation, you automatically lose. And they understood this, and white people understood this. Both sides would go back and forth. Granted, the guys on the white side would probably be a little bit more emotional than the Native Americans would be. And the Native Americans would just do their best to remain emotionless because they knew that would play their hand. They were dealing with a group of people that had better technology, building, weapon-wise, tactics. They knew that in an all-out battle, especially Red Cloud was famous for this when he went to Washington, he took a surrender to his people because he understood they faced total annihilation if they kept fighting. It wasn't a fact that they couldn't fight. It was a fact of the war was not going to end in their favor. The Americans, the colonists that had been there, that finally had settled, he understood that what they could build, what they could create, they could eventually overpower them and would have not stopped. As long as their people were willing to fight, they would continue to kill them. Red Cloud, in my opinion, did make the right decision. Despite all the hardship that happened afterward, it was far better than total extinction of your people, which back then was possible, unlike today. But for some of these idiots out here to sit back and claim that orcs are black people, god damn, dude. My God, how much fear do you... One, how many games do you actually play to not have some respect for orcs? Because, fuck me, I've had to fight orcs in games, and they are not something you can eat. They're mostly tanks. They literally are moving, squishy tanks. You really can't stop them at times. And they're usually pretty damn tough. Secondly, why in the hell would you do that and try to say that it's like an insult? You guys are basically making up shit just so you can try to counter it later. And it's making you look racist. Anyway, folks, if you're sick and tired of seeing this, or if you agree, disagree, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Also, are the orcs your favorite group? If they were, what kind of weapon would your orc use? Let's make something positive out of this. Anyway, I am the Last Raider. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notification. And as always, stay safe, stay frosty. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye now.